I still remember the exact pattern of the airport carpet. Gray hexagons with flecks of blue and burgundy, designed to hide dirt and the evidence of 1,000 hurried departures. I memorized every line of that pattern during the 3 hours I sat there, phone clutched in my hand, watching the battery percentage drop with each unanswered call. 12 calls, 12 times I heard my mom's voice on the voicemail. "Hi, you've reached Diane. Can't come to the phone right now, leave a message." That cheerful lilt in her voice, like she was always too busy doing something wonderful to pick up. I was 19 years old, sitting on a hard plastic chair in Terminal B of Philadelphia International Airport, and I had never felt more invisible in my entire life. Let me back up. My name is Nova, yes, like the star my dad used to say before he left when I was 7. My mom, Diane, raised me and my older brother Chase as a single mother. Except raised is a generous word for what actually happened. Chase got the attention. Chase got the college fund. Chase got mom showing up to his basketball games, his graduation, his award ceremonies. I got the leftovers. Not just of food though, yes. I ate plenty of reheated dinners alone while mom drove Chase to some practice or another. I got the leftover time, the leftover energy, the leftover love. The kind that's already been chewed up and spit out, and you're supposed to be grateful for the scraps. Nova's so independent. Mom would tell her friends, like it was a compliment. Like I'd chosen to figure out how to do my own laundry at 10, or learn to forge her signature on permission slips because she forgot about the field trip again. Independence wasn't a gift, it was survival. But that day at the airport, December 19th, 3 days before my 19th birthday, that was the day something inside me finally cracked clean through. I'd been visiting my Aunt Lorraine in Orlando, Mom's older sister, the one who actually remembered I existed. Aunt Lorraine didn't have kids of her own, and she'd always treated me like I mattered. Real conversations, real attention. She'd paid for the ticket, insisted I come spend a week with her after my first brutal semester at community college. "You need a break, sweetheart," she'd said on the phone. "Come down. We'll go to the beach. We'll talk. We'll eat too much key lime pie." And we did. For one perfect week, I felt like someone's first choice instead of their afterthought. Mom was supposed to pick me up from the airport. We'd confirmed it 3 times. I'd texted her my flight information. She'd responded with a thumbs up emoji and "See you Sunday, honey." My flight landed at 2:47 p.m. By 3:15. I was standing outside baggage claim with my small suitcase, scanning every car that pulled up to the curb. The December air was cold, that specific Pennsylvania cold that gets into your bones and won't leave. By 3:45, I'd moved inside. My fingers were numb, and the first prickle of worry was starting to bloom in my chest. That's when I made the first call, straight to voicemail. "Hey Mom, I'm here. Flight landed early. I'm at baggage claim, Terminal B. See you soon." I kept my voice light, cheerful even, because that's what I'd learned to do, make everything easy for her. Never be a burden, never be too much. 3:52 p.m. second call. Voicemail. "Mom, just checking in. Let me know when you're close." 4:08 p.m. third call. "Mom, it's Nova. I'm still waiting. Are you on your way?" The cheerfulness was gone now. I could hear the edge creeping into my voice. 4:23 p.m. fourth call. "Mom, I'm getting worried. Please call me back." I watched families reunite around me. A little girl ran into her father's arms, and he spun her around, both of them laughing. An elderly couple embraced, the woman crying into her husband's shoulder. An entire group held up a banner that said "Welcome Home, Sergeant Miller" in glittery letters, and I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, listening to my mother's voicemail. For the 4th time. 4:47 p.m. fifth call. My hand was shaking now. 4:55 p.m. sixth call. 5:12 p.m. seventh. 5:28 p.m. eighth. By the ninth call at 5:43 p.m. I wasn't leaving messages anymore. What was the point? She wasn't listening to them. She wasn't thinking about me at all. I tried Chase. It went to voicemail too. Of course it did. He was probably at some holiday party with his college friends, living his golden child life. not sparing a single thought for his little sister. 10th call at 6:02 p.m. 11th at 6:19 p.m. The airport was thinning out now. The holiday travelers had been collected by their loved ones, swept up into warm cars and driven home to hot meals and Christmas decorations. The janitor was making his rounds, the mechanical whir of his floor buffer echoing through the terminal. I sat down on one of those hard plastic chairs, the kind that's designed to be uncomfortable so people don't sleep on them. I pulled my knees up to my chest. I was small enough to do that. Always had been. The tiny one, the overlooked one, and I stared at my phone. 23% battery. I thought about all the other times. The forgotten birthdays. The missed school plays where I'd scan the audience, searching for her face, finding only empty seats. The parent-teacher conferences she never attended. The time I won the regional writing competition and she said, "That's nice, honey," without looking up from her phone. The time I had pneumonia and she sent me to school anyway because she had to drive Chase to a tournament hours away. The time my phone buzzed, my heart leaped. I grabbed it so fast I nearly dropped it. But it wasn't Mom. It was Aunt Lorraine. "Did you make it home safe? Your mom said she was leaving to get you. Let me know when you're back. Love you, sweetie." I stared at that message for a long time. Your mom said she was leaving to get you. She'd told Lorraine she was coming. She'd confirmed with someone else that she'd be there for me. But where was she? 6:34 p.m. 12th call. This time, I didn't wait for the voicemail. I hung up the moment I heard her recorded voice. That fake brightness that made my stomach turn. My phone was at 15% battery. I had $23 in my bank account. Everything else had gone to textbooks and rent for my tiny studio apartment near the community college. I could call an Uber, but it would cost at least $45 to get home, probably more with holiday surge pricing. I didn't have a credit card. Mom had promised to help me build credit, but that was another thing that never happened. I sat there as the minutes ticked by, watching my phone battery drain, watching the airport empty out, feeling something inside me drain too. All the excuses I'd made for her over the years. All the times I'd told myself she was just busy, just stressed, just overwhelmed. All the times I'd convinced myself that maybe if I was better, got better grades, caused less trouble, needed less, maybe then she'd notice me. But sitting there in that airport, forgotten like a piece of luggage left at the baggage carousel, I finally understood the truth. It wasn't that my mom was too busy to love me. It was that she didn't think I was worth the effort. At 7:08 p.m. I used the last of my phone battery to call a number I'd found on a flyer posted near the bathroom. A local shelter that offered emergency assistance. A kind woman named Ruth answered. "Harbor House, this is Ruth speaking." "Hi," I said, and my voice cracked on that single syllable. "I'm 19, and I'm stranded at the airport. My mom was supposed to pick me up 4 hours ago, and I can't reach her, and I don't have enough money for a ride." "Oh, honey," Ruth said, and there was such genuine concern in her voice that I started crying. "Give me 20 minutes. I'm sending someone to get you." "Which terminal?" "B," I whispered. "Terminal B. Sit tight, sweetheart. You're not alone." But I was. That was the whole problem. I'd always been alone. The shelter van arrived at 7:32 p.m., driven by a man named Marcus who didn't ask questions, just handed me a bottle of water and a granola bar and said, "Rough day, huh?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. As we pulled away from the airport, I watched the lights get smaller in the side mirror. Somewhere out there, my mom was doing something more important than picking up her daughter, watching TV, having dinner, laughing with Chase about something I wasn't part of, living her life like I didn't exist. The shelter was nothing like I'd imagined. It was clean and warm, with soft yellow lighting and the smell of coffee. Ruth met me at the door, a black woman in her 50s with kind eyes and silver-streaked braids. "Come on in, Nova," she said, like she'd been expecting me specifically. "Let's get you settled." They gave me a bed in a shared room with 2 other women, Tasha, who was 24 and running from an ex-boyfriend, and Kim, who was 41 and had lost her job and her apartment in the same week. We didn't talk much that first night, but Tasha handed me a phone charger, and Kim gave me an extra blanket. And those small kindnesses broke something open inside me. I plugged in my phone, and the messages came flooding in. 3:47 a.m. from Mom. Nova, where are you? I went to the airport and you weren't there. 3:51 a.m. I'm at the airport looking for you. Where did you go? 3:55 a.m. Nova, this isn't funny. I drove all the way here. 4:02 a.m. Fine, I'm going home. You can figure out your own way back since you decided to take off somewhere. I stared at those messages in the dark, the phone screen casting a blue glow on my face. She'd gone to the airport at 3:47 a.m. 13 hours after my flight landed. 13 hours after I'd made 12 unanswered calls, and somehow, in her mind, I was the one who'd abandoned her. Drop your city in the comments, let's see how far this story travels. The next morning, Ruth sat down with me over breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast that tasted better than anything I'd eaten in months. Maybe because someone had made it with care. Tell me what happened, she said gently. So I did. I told her everything, not just about the airport, but about all of it. The years of being invisible, the leftovers, the forgotten moments, the slow, steady erosion of believing I mattered. Ruth listened without interrupting, her hands wrapped around a coffee mug, her eyes never leaving my face. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Nova, I want you to hear this. What happened to you wasn't your fault. Neglect is abuse, even when it's quiet, even when it doesn't leave bruises, even when the person doing it is your mother. I'd never heard anyone say it out loud before. Neglect is abuse. I'm going to tell you something, Ruth continued. You can go back. You can call your mom, apologize for some imaginary wrongdoing, go home, and let this cycle continue. A lot of people do that. They go back because it's familiar, because they keep hoping it'll be different this time. She leaned forward. Or you can choose yourself. You can decide that you deserve better than scraps. You can build a life where you're not an afterthought. I don't know how, I whispered. That's why we're here, Ruth said, to help you figure it out. I stayed at Harbor House for 2 weeks. In that time, Ruth connected me with social services, helped me apply for emergency financial aid, and got me in touch with a counselor who specialized in family trauma. My mom called 17 times in those 2 weeks. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Not yet. Chase called too, finally. His message was brief. Nova, Mom's freaking out. She said you disappeared. Can you just call her back? She's really upset. She's really upset. Not, are you okay? Not what happened. Just concerned for Mom's feelings, as always. I texted him back. I'm safe. I'm not coming back right now. I need space. He responded. You're being dramatic. She made a mistake. You're breaking her heart. I turned my phone off after that. The counselor, Dr. Patricia Simmons, was a woman in her 60s with gray hair cut short and practical. She didn't coddle me, and I appreciated that. Your mother has shown you who she is repeatedly, Dr. Simmons said during our second session. At some point, you have to decide whether to keep expecting her to change, or to accept reality and protect yourself accordingly. But she's my mom, I said, and I hated how small my voice sounded. That's biology, Dr. Simmons replied. Love is action. Care is behavior. You can't force someone to see your worth, Nova. You can only decide to see it yourself. I worked at Harbor House in exchange for my room and board, helping in the kitchen, organizing donations, answering phones. I met women who'd survived things that made my story look simple. And yet, they didn't minimize my pain. Trauma isn't a competition. Tasha told me one night as we folded donated clothes. Your hurt is valid. 3 weeks after the airport, I finally called my mom. She answered on the first ring. Nova, oh my God. Where have you been? I've been worried sick. That phrase, worried sick, coming from the woman who'd let me sit in an airport for 13 hours. I've been figuring some things out, I said, keeping my voice steady. Figuring things out? You disappeared. You didn't answer my calls. Do you have any idea what you put me through? There it was. What I'd put her through, Mom, I said. I was at the airport for 13 hours. I called you 12 times. You didn't answer. You didn't show up until the middle of the night, and by then I was gone. I had to call a shelter for help. Silence. Then, I had to take Chase to look at that apartment for his internship. It ran late. I lost track of time. It's not like I did it on purpose, Nova. Chase's apartment. Of course. You didn't even apologize. I said, I'm apologizing now. I'm sorry it happened, okay? But you overreacted. You could have just waited. You could have called someone else. You didn't have to run off to some shelter and scare me half to death. I closed my eyes. Dr. Simmons had prepared me for this. The missing reasons, she'd called it. The way people who hurt you genuinely can't see what they did wrong, so they make it about your reaction instead. Mom, I'm not coming home right now. What do you mean you're not coming home? This is ridiculous, Nova. You're being childish. I'm taking care of myself. That's what I should have been doing all along, so you're punishing me? Is that what this is? No, I said, and I meant it. This isn't about you. This is about me choosing to be somewhere I'm not forgotten. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking, but there was something else too, a lightness I hadn't felt in years. Harbor House could only keep me for 30 days. But Ruth had helped me apply for transitional housing through a program for young adults. I got accepted. A small efficiency apartment, subsidized rent, with support services to help me finish my degree. I transferred from community college to Temple University with a full financial aid package. I got a part-time job at a bookstore near campus. I started seeing Dr. Simmons regularly. I built a life. It wasn't glamorous. My apartment was tiny, with a Murphy bed and a hot plate. I ate a lot of ramen and peanut butter sandwiches. I worked and studied and went to therapy and slowly began to understand what it felt like to put myself first. Aunt Lorraine visited me twice that first year. She never said I told you so, but I knew she'd had her own complicated history with my mom. Diane was the golden child in their family too, apparently. Some patterns run deep. I'm proud of you, Aunt Lorraine said, sitting in my cramped apartment, drinking tea from a chipped mug. It takes courage to walk away from family, even when they're hurting you. Mom tried to reach me periodically. Birthday texts, holiday messages, the occasional thinking of you that felt more like obligation than genuine care. I responded politely but distantly. Surface level updates. No emotional availability. The relationship I'd always had with her, basically, but reversed. Chase got married 2 years later. I wasn't invited to the wedding. Mom told Aunt Lorraine it was because the venue had limited space and Nova's been so distant anyway. I didn't cry about it. By then, I'd learned that you can't lose what you never really had. But here's the thing about building a life on your own terms. It works. I graduated from Temple with a degree in social work. Dr. Simmons wrote me a glowing recommendation letter. I got hired by a nonprofit that worked with at-risk youth kids who'd been forgotten, overlooked, left behind by the people who were supposed to love them. I was good at my job. Really good, because I knew exactly how those kids felt. I got my own apartment. A real one, with a bedroom and a kitchen and plants on the windowsill. I made friends, real friends who showed up, who called back, who remembered. I dated a little. Nothing serious. I was still figuring out what healthy love looked like. I went back to therapy regularly, peeling back layers of old hurt, learning to separate my worth from my mother's inability to see it. And 3 years after that day at the airport, my phone rang. It was Chase. Nova, he said. And his voice was different, smaller. We need to talk. It's about Mom. Part 2. Almost didn't answer Chase's call. 3 years of minimal contact. A wedding I wasn't invited to. And now suddenly we needed to talk? But something in his voice made me pick up. What about Mom? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. She's sick, Chase said. Breast cancer. Stage 3. She started treatment last month, but it's not going well. The doctors are saying she needs someone to help her through chemo, drive her to appointments, that kind of thing. I was standing in my kitchen, meal prepping for the week. I set down the knife I'd been using to chop vegetables. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. And I was. Despite everything, I didn't want my mother to suffer. She's asking for you. Chase continued. Those 4 words hung in the air between us. Asking for me. I repeated. Yeah, she wants you to come home. She needs help, Nova. And I can't do it. I've got the new job in Boston, and Rebecca's pregnant. And then you need me to do it. I finished. You're good at this stuff. You work in social services. You know how to handle medical things. And she's our mom. Our mom, the mom who'd shown up to every single one of his basketball games but missed my high school graduation because she had a headache. The mom who'd co-signed his student loans but told me I should figure out my own education. The mom who'd left me stranded at an airport for 13 hours. Chase, I said carefully. When's the last time you talked to Mom about me? What do you mean? I mean, has she ever acknowledged what happened? Has she ever apologized for forgetting me at the airport? For years of treating me like I was invisible? Silence. Nova. That was 3 years ago. She made a mistake. You really going to hold a grudge when she's got cancer? There it was. The trap I'd known was coming. It's not about the grudge, I said. It's about the fact that she's never once taken responsibility. She blamed me for disappearing. She called me childish for going to a shelter instead of waiting at the airport all night. She's never apologized, Chase. Not once. She's dying, Nova. She's sick. I corrected. Stage 3 has a decent survival rate with treatment. And even if she were dying, that doesn't erase the past. That doesn't mean I owe her my life now. So you're just going to let her suffer? I'm not doing anything to her, I said. I'm simply not volunteering to set myself on fire to keep her warm. There's a difference. Chase's voice went cold. You know what? Mom was right about you. You're selfish. You always have been. I laughed. Actually laughed. Selfish. Right. The kid who raised herself while Mom devoted everything to you. The one who paid her own way through college while you got the trust fund Grandma left. The one who waited 13 hours at an airport. But sure, I'm the selfish one. I can't believe you, Chase said. This is our mother. No. I said quietly. This is your mother. She stopped being mine a long time ago. She just didn't notice because she was too busy being yours. I hung up. My hands weren't shaking this time. But the calls didn't stop over the next week. I got messages from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Aunt Patrice, Mom's cousin, Uncle Frank, even my grandmother, who was 83 and had never bothered to learn how to text before, all the same message basically. Your mother needs you. Family takes care of family. Don't be cruel. Aunt Lorraine called too, but her message was different. Nova, honey, I want you to know I'm not calling to guilt you. Diane's my sister, and I love her, but I know what kind of mother she was to you. Whatever you decide, I support you completely. You don't owe her anything. I just wanted you to hear that from someone in the family. I cried after that call. Grateful tears. Someone saw me. The most surprising call came from Rebecca, Chase's wife. We'd only met once briefly, at a family gathering before the wedding I wasn't invited to. Nova, it's Rebecca. I know this is weird, but I needed to talk to you without Chase around, okay? I said cautiously. I've been hearing about this whole situation. And I've been hearing Chase's version. But I also found some old photos and letters at Diane's house when we were cleaning it out before her treatment started. I saw your awards from school, your writing competitions, your honor roll certificates. All of them shoved in a box in the basement, Nova. Not displayed, not celebrated, just hidden away. My throat tightened. And I found a journal, Rebecca continued. It was in a drawer, and I know I shouldn't have read it. But there was an entry from 3 years ago, about the airport. Nova, she wrote that she forgot about you because she was helping Chase apartment hunt. And then she wrote, Rebecca's voice cracked. She wrote, I feel bad, but Nova's always been so independent. She doesn't need me the way Chase does. I sat down. She knew, Rebecca said. She knew she forgot you. She knew why. And she decided it was okay because you didn't need her. That's not a mistake, Nova. That's a choice. Why are you telling me this? I whispered. Because Chase is a good man, but he's blind to his own privilege. He doesn't see how differently Diane treated you because he got all the good parts. And now he's pressuring you to come back and take care of her. And I think that's wrong. I think you should know that someone in this family sees the truth. Thank you. I managed. After we hung up, I sat with that information for a long time. She knew. She'd always known, Dr. Simmons and I had an emergency session that week. How do you feel? She asked. I feel. I searched for the word. Free? Is that horrible? My mom has cancer. And I feel free? You feel free because you're not carrying the burden of wondering anymore, Dr. Simmons said. You're not making excuses for her. You're not hoping she'll change. You know the truth now. That's not horrible. That's clarity. Everyone thinks I should help her. Everyone isn't living your life. Everyone didn't sit in that airport. Everyone doesn't carry your history. Dr. Simmons leaned forward. Nova, I'm going to ask you something important. If you help your mother through her treatment, what do you think will happen? I thought about it. Really thought about it. She'll expect me to stay, I said slowly. She'll expect me to come back into the fold like nothing happened. And when I don't, when I maintain my boundaries, she'll tell everyone I abandoned her after she was sick. I'll be the villain no matter what, probably. Dr. Simmons agreed. So the question isn't what they'll think. The question is what you can live with. That night, I wrote my mother a letter. Not an email. Not a text. A real letter handwritten. Dear Mom, Chase told me you're sick. I'm genuinely sorry you're going through this. Cancer is terrible, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. But I'm not coming back. I know that makes me the bad daughter in this story. I know people will call me cruel, selfish, heartless. I've made peace with that. What I can't make peace with is sacrificing myself again for someone who never saw my worth in the first place. You forgot me at the airport. Mom, that's the story everyone focuses on. But that wasn't the real hurt. The real hurt was the 13 hours before you arrived, when I called 12 times and you didn't answer. The real hurt was finding out you'd been helping Chase with his apartment while I sat there, scared and alone. But even that wasn't the real hurt. The real hurt was 29 years of being the forgotten one, the invisible one, the independent one, which was just a nice way of saying I didn't matter enough to take care of. I found a life where I matter, Mom, where people see me, where I'm not competing for scraps of attention. I hope your treatment goes well. I hope you survive this. I genuinely do, but I'm surviving too. And I can't do that in your orbit. Nova emailed it and felt like I'd exhaled a breath I'd been holding for decades. The responses were predictable. Chase called me every name in the book. Mom's friends left comments on my social media about what a disappointment I was. Distant relatives whispered at family functions that I didn't attend about my coldness. But Aunt Lorraine sent flowers to my apartment with a card that said, "Proud of you. Love." Aunt Elle and Rebecca reached out periodically with updates, unprompted. She's responding well to treatment. She's gained some weight back. She's going to be okay. I was glad. She'd be okay. And I was okay with not being there. 6 months passed. I got a promotion at work. Started dating someone, a teacher named Marcus, who was patient and kind and didn't think my boundaries were punishments. I was happy. Really, genuinely happy. That's when Mom showed up at my apartment. I opened the door one Saturday morning, coffee in hand, expecting maybe a package delivery. There she stood, thinner than I remembered, wearing a headscarf, but her eyes were the same, sharp, assessing. "Nova," she said, "we need to talk." I didn't invite her in. "How did you get my address?" "I'm your mother. I have my ways." Later I'd find out Chase had given it to her. Our final betrayal. "What do you want?" She looked genuinely surprised by the question. "I want to see my daughter. I've been through hell, Nova. I've had surgery, chemo, radiation. I almost died. And you weren't there." "No." I agreed. "I wasn't. How could you do that to me?" And there it was. The same inability to see beyond herself. "Mom, did you read my letter?" "Of course I read it. It was cruel. You blamed me for ancient history while I was fighting for my life." "Ancient history," I repeated. "Is that what 29 years of neglect is?" "I gave you everything. I worked 2 jobs to keep a roof over your head. You gave Chase everything. You gave me a roof. There's a difference." She actually rolled her eyes. Rolled her eyes. "You're still hung up on that airport thing." "Nova, I made a mistake. I've apologized." "No," I said calmly. You haven't. You've said I'm sorry it happened, which isn't the same thing. You've never said I'm sorry I forgot you. I'm sorry I chose Chase's apartment hunting over picking up my daughter. I'm sorry I made you feel invisible your entire life. Because I didn't make you feel that way. You're sensitive. You always have been. You take everything so personally. I looked at my mother, really looked at her, and felt nothing. Not anger, not love, not hope. Just nothing. I think you should leave. I said. I'm not leaving. We're going to work this out. I'm your mother. You're the woman who gave birth to me, I corrected. But you stopped being my mother a long time ago. You just never noticed. Her face went red. You ungrateful, stop, I said, and my voice was steel. You need to leave, now, or I'm calling the police. You wouldn't dare. I pulled out my phone. She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw it then, the calculation. The realization that I wasn't bluffing. That I wasn't the easy, accommodating daughter she remembered. Fine. She spat. But don't come crawling back when you need something. Don't expect me to be there for your wedding, or your kids, or anything else. You made your choice. Yes, I said. I did. I chose myself. Finally, she turned and walked away, her back rigid with fury. I closed the door and stood there for a moment, waiting for the guilt to come. It didn't. Instead, I felt lighter. That evening, Marcus came over. I told him what happened. How are you feeling? He asked, pulling me close. Good, I said, surprised by my own honesty. Really good. No regrets. I thought about it, really sat with the question. I regret that I didn't have the mother I deserved, I said finally. I regret that she couldn't see me, but I don't regret protecting myself. I don't regret choosing a life where I'm not invisible. He kissed my forehead. Good. That night, I wrote in my journal a practice Dr. Simmons had encouraged. Today my mother came to my door expecting me to let her back in, expecting me to forgive without her having to change, expecting me to make myself small again so she could feel big. I said no, and it felt like the most honest thing I've ever done. 3 years later, I'm 32 now. I married Marcus in a small ceremony with people who actually showed up for me. Aunt Lorraine walked me down the aisle. Rebecca and her kids came. She'd divorced Chase a year earlier, said she finally saw how his family operated and couldn't participate anymore. I didn't invite my mother or Chase. There was no drama, just peace. I got my muzz and now run my own program for forgotten kids, the ones who age out of foster care, the ones whose families chose addiction or new partners or just indifference over them. I teach them what I learned. You cannot force people to see your worth, but you can see it yourself. And that's enough. My mother sends a Christmas card every year. Generic messages. Hope you're well. Thinking of you. Always signed Mom. Like she earned that title. I read them and file them away. Sometimes people ask if I'll reconcile with her, if I'll regret my choice when she dies. My answer is always the same. I'm not waiting for her to die to have closure. I'm not waiting for an apology that will never come. I made my closure. I chose my peace. Last week, one of my kids, a 16-year-old named Destiny, who'd been bounced between 7 foster homes, looked at me during group therapy and said, "How do you just stop caring? My mom doesn't call me, doesn't visit, and I keep hoping she will. How do you stop hoping?" I thought about 12 missed calls, about airport carpet, about a lifetime of being forgotten. You don't stop caring, I told her. You just start caring about yourself more. You realize that you're the most important person in your life, and you deserve someone who shows up for you, even if that someone is you. She looked at me with eyes that had seen too much for 16. Did your mom ever come back? She asked. She tried, I said honestly. But coming back and changing are two different things. She wanted me to forgive her without her having to admit what she'd done. She wanted the relationship without doing the work, and I couldn't give her that. Do you miss her? It was a question I'd asked myself 1,000 times. I miss the mom I wish I'd had, I said. I miss the idea of having a mother who sees you, who celebrates you, who shows up. But I don't miss the reality of what our relationship actually was. I don't miss feeling invisible. Destiny nodded slowly. My counselor says I need to grieve the mother I deserved, not just the one I got. Your counselor is right, I said. And it's okay to be angry about it. It's okay to grieve. But at some point, you have to decide whether you're going to keep waiting at the airport or whether you're going to call yourself a ride. She smiled a little at that. You really did that? Waited at an airport? For 13 hours, I confirmed. Made 12 calls. And she never picked up. That's so messed up. Yeah, I agreed. It really was. But you know what? That night changed my life. Because I finally stopped making excuses for her. I stopped believing that if I was just better, quieter, more convenient, she'd love me the way I needed. I realized the problem wasn't me. It never was. Destiny looked down at her hands. I keep thinking if I just get straight A's, or if I just don't cause problems, maybe my mom will want me back. My heart broke for her. For the girl I used to be. Destiny, listen to me. Your worth is not conditional. You don't have to earn love from the people who are supposed to give it freely. And if someone can't see how amazing you are, that's their blindness, not your deficiency. She wiped at her eyes. How did you get so strong? I'm not strong, I said. I just got tired of being small. People ask me sometimes if I won the revenge I was looking for. The truth is, I wasn't looking for revenge. Not really. Revenge would have been making her suffer. Revenge would have been cruelty for cruelty's sake. What I did was simpler and more radical than that. I just stopped participating in my own erasure. I stopped showing up to a family that didn't value my presence. I stopped begging for crumbs of affection. I stopped setting myself on fire to keep other people warm. And when my mother was sick and needed me, when the family that had ignored my pain suddenly demanded my service, I said no. Not out of spite, but out of self-preservation, because I'd learned something crucial in those 3 years between the airport and her diagnosis. You cannot heal in the environment that made you sick. My mother's house, my mother's orbit, my mother's version of love, that was the environment that had convinced me I was unworthy, that I was too much and never enough all at once, that I was forgettable. Going back, even temporarily, even out of obligation, would have undone years of hard-won healing. So I didn't go. And yes, I paid a price for that. I lost the extended family I'd barely had to begin with. I became the story they told at gatherings, the ungrateful daughter, the cold one, the one who abandoned her dying mother. But I gained something more valuable. I gained myself. Chase, and I haven't spoken in 2 years. The last message he sent said, "I hope you can live with yourself." I wrote back, "I finally can." That's the point. He never responded. My mother recovered from her cancer. She's in remission now. According to the occasional updates that filter through to Aunt Lorraine, she tells people I broke her heart, that she doesn't understand what she did wrong, that I'm oversensitive and hold grudges, and maybe she genuinely believes that. Maybe she's rewritten the history in her mind so thoroughly that she can't see her own hand in our estrangement, or maybe she knows exactly what she did and can't admit it. Either way, it's not my problem to solve anymore. On my 32nd birthday, Marcus surprised me with a trip. Not to somewhere exotic, we're social workers. We're not exactly rich, but to Philadelphia. To the airport where it all happened. Are you serious? I asked when he told me. I know it sounds weird, he said, but I thought maybe you needed to go back. Not to relive the trauma, but to see how far you've come. To close the loop. So we went. We walked through Terminal B, and I showed him the exact spot where I'd sat. The carpet had been replaced, new pattern, industrial blue, but the chairs were the same. I sat right here, I said, pointing. I watched my phone battery die. I watched everyone else get picked up. I felt so completely alone. Marcus took my hand. You're not alone anymore. I know, I said. And I meant it. We sat there for a moment, in those uncomfortable plastic chairs, and I thought about the girl I'd been. 19, scared, still believing that love was something you had to earn through silence and convenience. You want to know something? I said to Marcus. I'm grateful for that day. He looked surprised. Grateful? Yeah, because it woke me up. It was the proof I needed that I couldn't deny anymore. If she hadn't forgotten me that day, I might have spent my whole life making excuses for her. I might have kept shrinking myself, kept hoping, kept waiting for her to see me. I stood up, looking around the terminal. That day, I stopped waiting. I called myself a ride, and I've been doing that ever since. Marcus stood too, pulling me into a hug. I love you, Nova. Not in spite of your boundaries, but because of them. Because you know your worth. I love you too, I said into his shoulder. We left the airport hand in hand, and I didn't look back. The revenge, if you can call it that, wasn't dramatic. There was no confrontation where I laid out all her failures and watched her crumble. There was no moment where she finally understood and apologized and we had a tearful reconciliation. The revenge was simply this. I lived well. I built a life full of people who showed up for me. I married a man who answered on the first ring. I created a home where I was never an afterthought. I helped kids who reminded me of myself. And I taught them what I'd learned, that you can survive without the people who were supposed to love you. I thrived in the space where my mother's love should have been. And that, more than any confrontation or cruelty, was the truest form of revenge. Because she'd spent my entire childhood treating me like I was dispensable. Like I was the spare kid. The one who didn't really matter. And I proved her wrong by mattering to myself. Last month, I got a letter. Not a Christmas card this time, but an actual letter. 3 pages long, in my mother's handwriting. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity got the better of me. Dear Nova, I've been in therapy. My doctor recommended it after the cancer. Said I needed to process some things. I've been going for 8 months now. My therapist asked me to write this letter. She said I needed to be honest with you, and with myself about our relationship. I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if you'll care. But I'm going to try anyway. I was a terrible mother to you. I stopped reading. My heart pounding. Read that line again. I was a terrible mother to you. Not because I didn't love you, but because I loved you wrong. I loved you the way I'd been loved, with conditions, with comparisons, with the assumption that some children need more and some need less. Chase was difficult. He demanded attention. He threw tantrums if he didn't get his way. So I gave him what he demanded. You were easy. You asked for less. You made yourself small. So I gave you less. I told myself you were independent, self-sufficient, that you didn't need me the way Chase did. But the truth is, you needed me just as much. You just learned early that asking wouldn't get you anywhere, so you stopped asking. I see that now. My therapist made me look at old journals, old photos, old memories through a different lens. And I finally see what I did to you. The airport wasn't an accident, Nova. I mean, I didn't plan to forget you. But I forgot you because on some level, I'd always been forgetting you. You weren't the priority. You never were. And I'm sorry. I know those words are too small for the hurt I caused. I know they don't fix anything. But they're true. I'm sorry I made you feel invisible. I'm sorry I compared you to Chase. I'm sorry I missed your childhood while I was busy with his. I'm sorry I left you at that airport. I'm sorry I blamed you for leaving. I'm sorry I showed up at your apartment demanding forgiveness without having earned it. I'm sorry for all of it. My therapist asked me what I want from this letter. I think she wanted me to say I want a relationship with you, that I want you back in my life. But what I want is for you to be happy. And if being happy means I'm not in your life, then I understand. I don't like it, but I understand it. You deserved better than me, Nova. You deserved a mother who saw you, celebrated you, showed up for you. I'm sorry I wasn't her. I'm proud of the woman you've become, even though I had nothing to do with it. Aunt Lorraine shows me photos sometimes. Your wedding, your work, the program you started. You're doing something beautiful in the world. You became everything I should have helped you become. And you did it without me. That's both my biggest regret and my greatest relief. I don't expect you to respond to this. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I finally see you. It's 29 years too late, but I see you now. Mommy read the letter 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer, not thrown away, but not answered either. Because here's the thing about apologies. They don't erase the past. They don't undo the damage. They don't make up for lost time. An apology is just the beginning of accountability, not the end of it. And my mother's apology, while meaningful, didn't change the fundamental truth. I'd already built a life without her. A good life. A full life. Did I want her apology? Yes. Did I need it to move forward? No. I'd already moved forward. 3 years before she got sick. 5 years before she went to therapy. 29 years of moving forward, one small step at a time, until I was so far from that airport terminal that it was just a memory instead of a prison. Marcus found me sitting on the bedroom floor with the letter. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah." I said. "I am." "What are you going to do?" I thought about it. Really sat with the question. "Nothing," I said finally. "I'm going to live my life. I'm going to keep helping kids who need someone to see them. I'm going to love the people who love me back. I'm going to keep being the person I fought so hard to become. And your mom? If she does the work, real, sustained work, not just 8 months of therapy but years of growth, maybe someday we'll have coffee. Maybe we'll have a surface-level relationship where we're polite and distant. Maybe we'll exchange birthday cards and show up to big family events and make small talk." I folded the letter and put it back in its envelope. But I'll never be her daughter again. Not the way she wants. Because that version of me, the one who waited for scraps, who believed I had to earn love, who sat in airports making unanswered calls, she doesn't exist anymore. Good. Marcus said simply. So that's my story. That's my revenge. Such as it is. I didn't destroy my mother. I didn't make her suffer. I didn't get some dramatic moment of vindication where she realized everything she'd lost and fell to her knees, begging. I just lived. I just chose myself. I just stopped waiting at the airport, and every single day that I wake up in a home where I'm valued, next to a partner who answers my calls, surrounded by work that fulfills me and friends who show up every single one of those days, is my revenge, because she told me, through action if not words, that I didn't matter. And I proved her wrong by making myself matter. To the kids reading this who feel invisible, I see you. You're not asking for too much. You're not too sensitive. You're not the problem. Some people can't love you the way you need, and that's on them. Not you. To the adults reading this who think I'm cruel, I respect your opinion, but I reject your judgment. You don't have to understand my choices to respect my right to make them. And to anyone sitting in their own version of that airport, making call after call that goes unanswered, wondering if you're worth showing up for. You are, and if they can't see it, the answer isn't to shrink yourself smaller. The answer is to call yourself a ride. The answer is to leave. The answer is to build a life where you're not waiting anymore, because you deserve people who answer on the first ring. You deserve people who mark their calendars. You deserve people who would never, ever forget you. And if your family can't be those people, then you find your own family. You create it from friends and partners and mentors and the kids you help and the community you build. Family isn't just blood. Family is who shows up. 3 years after the airport, my mother needed me and I didn't come. And I don't regret it. Not even a little bit. Because I finally learned the most important lesson. I can't save someone who doesn't see me drowning, but I can save myself. And I did.